Hi, I'm Steve Hand, licensed psychologist. Um, Welcome back. This is another video in my series on self-improvement for normal people. This one, it will be about overcoming anxiety. So just to review a little bit of what I've talked about already in the first videos that I did, I had an introduction. I talked about the relationship between thinking, feeling, and doing. Talked about what irrational thoughts are and how to think more rationally. I talked about the normal curve, also called the normal distribution. Then I talked about relationships and domestic violence. Then the last video was on maintaining good self-esteem. Many of these topics are overlapping, so they're related to each other, and I tried to create the most basic topics first, and now we're kind of building on them. So this one's on overcoming anxiety. So let's talk about what anxiety is, first of all. Anxiety is the physiological effects of fear. So oftentimes anxiety is described as a rapid heartbeat, like your heart is pounding, and it's much more fast than usual. You might be sweating profusely when you're nervous. Muscle tension. You might be developing a tension headache, or you might feel your jaws tense, or some other part of the body being tense. You might develop a tic or a twitch of muscles in your face or shoulder or neck. Um, Restlessness, tension. It also, anxiety affects your cognitive processes too, your ability to concentrate and pay attention. Even your thought process is affected. So they're all related, but anxiety is the body's response to stress. Okay, so it's slightly different than fear. Usually it's associated with fear. Fear is the emotion, whereas anxiety is how your body's responding to that fear. So um, now this is a very, very uncomfortable feeling. I think we've all had anxiety at different times, but some people are more prone to have anxiety. Very powerful negative feeling. Now, it may have a genetic predisposition. Uh, Perhaps you might have a parent or grandparents or brothers or sisters who also have anxiety. It's hard to know what's causing it. Could also be some medical issues involved. Sometimes thyroid is involved. You might have a metabolic imbalance. Sometimes caffeine can cause anxiety. You might have withdrawal from some drugs, even withdrawal from caffeine or nicotine. Um, and generally, if it isn't one of those things, then we often talk about stress. Stress is a very general term. Um, but I'm focusing on the stress today because I'm a psychologist and an addictions counselor. So some of the common reasons for anxiety, many people get anxiety when they're around other people, um, when they're in crowds, sometimes if they're in an enclosed place. And this is especially true these days as the pandemic is lessening. We've been pretty much secluded for about 2 years, so it's even more pronounced now, that social anxiety. But people can have anxiety for many different reasons. Anticipatory anxiety means you're anticipating something negative happening, so you're building up anxiety and tension. So that's very common. Test anxiety is very common. Uh, right before you have to take a test, you get nervous. But basically, as a psychologist, I'm looking at what thoughts you're having just prior to feeling anxiety. So the sequence could be you're thinking about something that's unpleasant in a negative or maladaptive way, such as, uh, I have to do well on this test I'm going to take. I should do well. I must do well. That causes anxiety and fear, and it could lead to avoidance behavior. And it certainly is going to affect your concentration. So those negative thoughts can actually cause you not to do as well, and certainly makes it an unpleasant experience. And if you keep having this anxiety repeatedly with the negative thoughts, it could lead to some depression. So let's talk about how to reduce those feelings of anxiety. First, you want to check with your doctor to see if there's any medical reasons for the anxiety. You also want to consider, see if the doctor may want to prescribe some medication which could reduce anxiety. This may help at least temporarily so that you can deal with these situations that are problematic for you. Also, review your use of different substances, including caffeine, energy drinks, nicotine, even alcohol or drugs, because the withdrawal from substances can cause anxiety. Then look at your lifestyle factors, such as exercise, sleep, amount of sunlight, also the amount of pain you may be having too, because when we're in pain, that could be a source of anxiety too. But I'm more focused on your thinking, and keeping your thoughts rational, avoiding the use of the terms like I should, I must, I have to. It would be a catastrophe if this happened or if that happened. It would be a terrible thing if this happened or that happened. If I meet this person today, it would be a catastrophe. So all these types of thinking would cause anxiety. So, and you don't want to get into that pattern of avoiding situations that cause you anxiety, because in the long run, you might be avoiding a lot of situations and be just not really living your life like you want to. So it's better to expose yourself to situations that are uncomfortable and learn how to tolerate them, but learn how to relax. So that's one of the biggest recommendations I have, is learn relaxation techniques such as deep, slow breathing, maybe transcendental meditation, visual imagery, progressive muscle relaxation. You could do a little research on the internet. Do a Google search on relaxation techniques and practice them. Practice the deep, slow breathing. And then you think about these situations that make you uncomfortable while you're doing your deep, slow breathing and other relaxation techniques. And then slowly you can put yourself into these situations while you're doing the relaxation. And try to imagine positive outcomes, okay, instead of the negative outcomes. Oftentimes, being in these situations are not nearly as catastrophic as you imagine them to be. So imagine a positive outcome and imagine why you're doing it, and imagine the positive consequences of actually doing what you have been afraid of doing in the past. So those are some tips for you. Again, this is not a substitute for counseling or psychotherapy. That's definitely something you want to consider if you have significant amounts of anxiety, because it's very, very uncomfortable, and a therapist can personally address you on an individual basis. and make recommendations that are specific to you. So good luck with these things. If you have any comments, please let me know. If you like this and find this is valuable, click like and subscribe. And I look forward to talking with you again. Take care.